Lewis Hamilton has done it. He has equaled Michael Schumacher's incredible record of 91 race victories. And what a track to do so at Michael's would have been home race. Welcome back to the Grid Talk podcast. Today we are reviewing the Eifel GP at the Nürburgring. Hosting today is myself, Steph Wentworth from All About Steph 1 on YouTube. Joining me are motorsport podcaster Philip Mathew.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are.
Master of Engineering Jack Watson.
Hello.
And F1 expert Alex Booth.
Hello.
So guys, what a race that was. Now, just before we even get into talking about the finishing order, I want to see how you guys found it. So how would you rate the race out of 10? What would you guys think it was on that scale? How about we start with you, Alex?
I will go with 8 out of 10. It was a very enjoyable race, very entertaining, lots of action. And I think my bold prediction from last weekend actually came true. Ricciardo got the podium, so I'm very happy about that. It was just a very entertaining race. It was great to watch.
Jack, how about you?
I go 7. Like, first half, very punchy, very on edge. Quiet down a little bit, but it also let you study the strategy and see how people were going to play the VSCs and actual SCs. And I mean, what a podium! That's a popular person to be on the podium. But we will get to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, a little bit disappointed we didn't get a shoey. But how did you feel, Philip? What did you think the race is worth? What rating do you think it's worth?
Well, it kind of works because Alex and Jack went 8 and 7, so I can go 7.5. I think that we could make the argument. I think we'll probably talk about it later in regards to some of the VSC versus S full safety car calls. It did provide a little bit of action there late, but honestly, you had attrition for once. I think the cold temperatures really made put a stress on these cars. And there was a lot of stuff that went on that you usually wouldn't see at a usual Tilke-drome kind of race. So plenty of action, plenty of interesting things, and a record was tied today.
Yeah, I think it was great. I'll go quite similar. I'll go 7. It would be higher if we'd have had maybe Bottas stay in the race and we could have had a bit more action up front, because I think that's the only place where it was really lacking, because towards the back of the midfield or even fighting for third place, we were seeing some brilliant battles. So yeah, a little bit disappointing we couldn't see more at the front, but yeah, you're all absolutely right. It was definitely overall a really great race. So yes, let's start off with the big guy, Lewis Hamilton. He has now equaled Michael Schumacher's record with 91 victories. And that is an incredible stat to even comprehend. And I didn't think that anyone was going to beat that record. Alex, how great was Hamilton's drive today?
It was flawless, as we've come to expect from Lewis. Valtteri made the mistake going into the hairpin at the first corner, and then Lewis going around the outside. And from then on, he showed his dominant form as per usual. But to see the record of Michael Schumacher being equalled, I mean, I remember growing up watching Michael, and it just seemed astronomical, the records he achieved. And I thought when he retired the first time round in 2006, I thought it's going to take some achievement for those to be equalled. And lo and behold, it has. And what better person to do it than Lewis? I mean, the success that he's had over in the last 6 years in the hybrid era. And it was such a lovely moment to see Mick Schumacher presenting him with the helmet at the end. It was poetic, and to equal it on German soil as well. I mean, it couldn't have been written finer for him.
Yeah, I was thinking I'm almost glad that he didn't win last week in Russia, because I don't think it would have been half as sweet of a moment to see him on the podium with Michael on the board behind him and Mick giving him the helmet. It was just absolutely lovely to see. But one guy who we thought might be able to take the fight to Lewis today was Verstappen, who ended up coming in second and this lap. Jack, did you think that he was going to be able to take the fight to Hamilton, and when did you lose hope?
He probably wouldn't have. He wouldn't have. It's not a point on him. Like, to be fair, he's doing what they can, and like you can kind of see it in like how they finished up the end of the race. Like, he just pips in a fastest lap, and as late those cars get aside from qualifying, and all of a sudden you've got Hamilton and Mercedes. They're all like, look, they're so fast. Like, we can't stop. They're right on our tails. Like, come on, guys, we know this is not. But look, that's the attitude you need to wipe the floor with 9 of the other best teams on the
Yeah.
planet. Like, so not a point against Verstappen. A fantastic race. He was where he needed to be. I think he probably had if Bottas had stayed, I reckon he could have had the possibility of getting second, to be honest. I like to defend Bottas. I think he's trying, but he's
Not trying hard enough.
No, not really. Like, I know someone else will get onto it quite soon. But yeah, like it's just not with it. And I think Verstappen probably would have got that second place ultimately after Valtteri's mistake had the power unit stayed with him.
Yeah, I would agree actually. But we had a new face on the podium. It wasn't Valtteri Bottas, who we have seen several times over the season. We had Daniel Ricciardo. Now, I feel like this has been coming for a while. He's had 3 fourth place finishes in this season so far, and he has been on incredible form. And so he's been very, very close to a podium several occasions now. And today he finally got it. Philip, talk us through Daniel's race.
Yeah, it was early on. He was held back behind Charles Leclerc, and that was kind of an issue. But once he was able to get away from the Ferrari and start setting faster lap times, give himself a gap, he kind of determined his own race. And also once they came out with the one, I think it was a VSC when he came in, but McLaren didn't pit Lando. That kind of changed things a little bit. Checo was around to go and give him stress, but in the end, then the full safety car came out later, which then he was able to get a free pit stop, even though they put everybody back together. The Renault right now is in a position where they are, depending on the track, as Cyril said, who's going to get a tramp stamp, so it's going to be great. They're on the pace. They are the third best car at certain racetracks, and so it's a great day for Daniel. It's a great day for that organization, the Enstone team, however many different guises it's been under, and so I think it's a beautiful thing for him. It's his first podium since he won Monaco in 2018. His first podium for Renault as a constructor since 2011. First podium for them in a long, however many guises ago it was when they got a podium. So it's a good thing for overall, and it's nice to see. Yeah, we missed out on the shoey, but I guess social distancing and COVID time, we can't really be doing shoeys. If based on what Martin has said was true, but I don't know about that.
Yeah, I would have liked to see the shoey, definitely. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what this tattoo that Cyril's going to be getting is, because we've been hearing so much about this in the last few races, and now we are finally going to see it happen.
Well, the Renault should have been on the podium soon.
Comfortably. I'd have expected that from a factory outfit.
Oh, no,
Well,
yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah, they should have, but you consider who's running them and then how things are over there. And you also consider the power unit issues that they've had since this turbo hybrid era has been going on. They were on the back foot from the start. It took Honda coming in before they were not the worst engine. So, and now you needed Ferrari to get penalized by the FIA to basically now make them the second power unit. So I mean, I get it in the sense, I agree, but they're not the same kind of effort. They don't have the same kind of leadership as they've had in some of their better times in the sport either.
Well, all I would have said is when Renault came back as a full factory outfit in 2016, they said that obviously they weren't going to do anything very quickly, but I wouldn't expect it would take 4 years to get a podium. I mean, I thought that it would have happened a lot sooner than that.
No, like year 3 was meant to be like, okay, we could start thinking about the championship. I get that like people don't like Cyril, and I can sort of see like with the friction, like how we're just even looking at his relationship with Christian, like genuinely not. Like, it looks like he could be a difficult person to work with.
I quite like Cyril.
He's an interesting character, isn't he?
Yeah, there's just something about him I think I quite like. I think it's because I'm not Christian Horner's biggest fan. So
Fairs.
I can understand that, to be honest.
There aren't many people who really like Christian Horner either.
I like him. I think he's funny. He's better than Helmet, and I do think he's done a good job with Red Bull for the last
Helmet's a psychopath, so it's just a whole other. Him and Franz are both lunatics, so it doesn't matter. they run drivers through a ringer they run them through shredders, and then by the end of it, half of them are done. It makes no sense.
Fourth place, we had Sergio Perez. Now, we definitely thought at one point he would be in contention for the podium positions. He and Daniel were racing quite hard towards the end. Alex, do you think that he would have actually ultimately been able to take that podium away from Daniel Ricciardo, or do you think that Daniel had both hands on that and was not letting go?
Yeah, I think Daniel really had the measure of him. I must confess, there was a part of me that wanted either Lewis or Max to have a reliability problem, because I really wanted to see both Ricciardo and Perez on the podium, because for sentimental reasons, because it was nice to see Ricciardo back, and I'm personally a big fan of Perez as well. I really wanted him to get that podium, because I think the situation that he's been in with Racing Point, he's been booted out of the team for next year, he's still turning up and giving it 10 out of 10 every single weekend, and that's another fourth place. Maybe he might get a podium to come in the next few races that remain, but it was another mature drive for him. The only thing is, I think it was just a little bit out of reach, because Ricciardo was cemented really in third place. It was another strong performance from Perez, and it just seems to elude him, that podium place.
Yeah, he's definitely sending out a message at the minute to all of the teams who have places available for 2021 that he deserves to have a place on the grid. So I do hope that one of the teams is looking at him right now and hoping to snatch him up. And I hope we're going to hear some news in the upcoming weeks. Fifth place, we had McLaren. Now, I would have thought that the leading McLaren would have been Lando Norris, but unfortunately it was not. It was the other McLaren. It was Carlos Sainz, who did a really, really great job against odds. We know that he was struggling a little bit with the setup of his car and it wasn't responding too well. So I think he did a pretty good job to finish fifth, wouldn't you say, Jack?
Yeah, to be honest, couldn't agree more. It's sort of where you'd expect the McLaren to finish. If Racing Point can get on top of their car with their limited development, then they're still, even now, going to be a bit of a force to be reckoned with. So, yeah, Carlos might be a bit disappointed. I thought they might be able to cycle through on the strategy with the VSC and SC, but unfortunately, it never really came to. They just couldn't close that last little bit of a gap. Sorry. They couldn't close that last little bit of a gap. So yeah, it'll probably be a bit disappointed, but they'll take the points, focus on picking up the pace for Portugal and Imola. They've got the back-to-backs coming now, so they're going to need to be on it for a much longer period, and they might be able to jump Renault and Racing Point at those two tracks if they can keep their consistency over a much higher energy expenditure, like team-wise rather than car-wise.
Yeah, so it's definitely looking to the future for McLaren after this weekend. Sixth place, we had Pierre Gasly. Now, he was on the hards for a little bit, and as we saw throughout the race, the hards actually weren't a very good race tyre, and those who were on hards were struggling a lot. So Pierre actually did a really great job to finish in sixth position. Philip, what did you make of his race?
Yeah, Pierre Gasly, I mean, we've been talking about it here on the show, no matter who's been on, how Pierre has been performing well above the car, well above what many expect. His demotion, now Red Bull's looking back and probably thinking they probably pulled the plug too soon. There's all these different things that are going on, but Pierre is actually going and running really well, to making the most out of his situation. They made a mistake with strategy, but they were behind. They're outside the top 10 to start the race anyway. It was worth the risk. They're not in the full-on race for constructors, so they took that shot. Didn't work, but Gasly made the most of getting the new tires and all the safety car VSC things going on and get a sixth place finish. That's what he's been doing all year, and it's part of the reason why he was in position to go and get his win a few weeks ago as well. So credit to him, credit to that team, and figure we'll see similar kind of action at some of these more wild card type events that are coming along here as the rest of the season comes.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to those wild cards. And yeah, Pierre's still outperforming that car. Seventh place, we had someone who is also outperforming the car that they're in. We have Charles Leclerc. Now, he qualified really, really well yesterday and managed to convert it into a pretty decent race result. Alex, what did you make of his race?
Well, I mean, I just think Charles Leclerc's doing an outstanding job. I was thinking during the season, it's been almost Senna Schumacher-esque in terms of outperforming a really poor car, in terms of Senna's 93 McLaren and Schumacher's 96 Ferrari. I mean, that's how you judge how good a driver really is. If they've got a really poor car and yet they're showing it, and they're pushing it up to nowhere where it should be, and that displays Leclerc's talent. Qualified fourth, he put on a spirited performance in the early race, trying to hold off Ricardo. Unfortunately, it was inevitable, really, that he was going to lose out in that one. But yeah, he kept his head and didn't make any mistakes and brought the car home with the points. And that's really all he can ask for from Ferrari at the moment, given the speed of that car.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He did a really, really great job. And the Ferrari definitely doesn't belong anywhere near there. And I think that's definitely similar of Pierre Gasly as well. The AlphaTauri does not belong where he's putting it. So I think those two are definitely doing great jobs, respectively, for their teams. But our super sub is next in 8th position. The man himself, Nico Hülkenberg. He's Hulken back again. And he did an amazing job qualifying P20 and finishing P8 in the race. Jack, talk to me about Nico Hülkenberg.
What can you say? 10 lap. What was it? About 10 minutes of running, essentially. You're 0.2 off of the pace of the next car and 1 second off your teammate. That's acceptable because given how hard you have to push in quality. And then just keeping your head, staying out of trouble, doing a traditional, safe race, and it's paid off. What can you say? The car came to him. Yeah, he's really putting his deck down as proving this is what I can do. You shouldn't have left me in the cold last year. Whether or not he'll be at Racing Point or Aston Martin, I don't know. I'm working on a couple of theories where he might wind up. Some of those may not be F1, but we will have to wait and see on that. Certainly, he's proving he's a top caliber driver. I know Alex has some opinions.
I knew this was coming.
No, Alex, don't. I'll boot you out of the podcast. I will if you say anything bad about my guy.
But I can understand some people perhaps questioning, does he deserve it? Because look, you've been in there a long time, and you have had chances. You go to the bottle bank every time. What are we sure? But if he can actually hold it together, he's proving his worth is worth it. So it's basically just a great big job advert for him, really. And if he gets any options to do this, he'll have to snap them up.
Yeah, I think it would have been brilliant if we saw drives like this a few years ago when he did have a full-time drive in F1. And I think, we wouldn't be in this position now with him not in F1, having to prove why he should be in F1. So yeah, I do think I understand everyone's argument when they try and tell me that he has had opportunities, and I completely respect that. I agree with that. And he has bottled it. If we think about Germany 2019, he was literally running in the podium positions and he bottled it. So it was I thought it was brilliant to see him just jump back in the car again. Like you said, you have to push so hard in qualifying, and he did. He pushed, even though he ended up in last. Everyone else had an hour of running before he had. Everyone else is training to be an F1 driver, and he's literally sat on his sofa in the bath having a coffee. He's not living the life of an F1 driver, and he's still managing to jump in the car and pull out results. So,
but just to point out how little practice he had, he said that he made a mistake off the start, being in the wrong engine mode. You have to change the engine mode for the burnouts to warm the rear tires, and then change your engine back 2 clicks back. He only turned it back 1 click. You still having to learn the bloody steering wheel.
Yeah.
And that's how much these cars change. And I think people underestimate how fast it can run away with a driver. He was only in Germany because he was doing TV coverage. If it weren't for that, it would have been at no chance of something.
Stoffel Van Dorn.
So
I would have loved to see that as well, to be fair.
Yeah. So yeah, it's that proof of that raw talent that you kind of just sort of born with to a certain extent. But yeah, we'll see if anyone's actually going to see him worthy next year.
Hopefully. I am praying, I'm holding out hope that he's going to be with us for 2021. Okay, but we move on to number 9, and in 9th position we had Romain Grosjean. His first points of the season, his first points since Germany 2019. he did a great job, and his strategy was interesting, and he was definitely helped out by the safety car because it put him into the points positions. But Philip, what did you think about that strategy call? Because Haas did a pretty good job, I'd say.
Yeah, I guess they switched Romain Grosjean with Kevin Harvick or Chase Briscoe, and they put the NASCAR package in there or something, because then all of a sudden they seemed to have something working. It must have, well, Roman supposedly got his hand hurt early in the race, and he was driving around supposedly with one hand, so that makes it all more dramatic and all. Credit to them. I mean, the car's a brick on wheels, so the fact that they're able to go and get points. I mean, Kevin Magnussen had proved that yesterday in qualifying a little bit in Q1 to get into Q2, that they had a little bit of pace with this colder temperature. They ran on a harder tire. They went and took the alternate instead of going and pitting because they knew they weren't going to have a chance. They stayed out on the harder tire and were able to hold off Giovinazzi and Vettel and all these other people. So credit to Haas in a time in a year where they're basically out to lunch. They're really only racing Williams right now. And so to go and get that point, it's a crucial point in the constructors. And for Grosjean to theoretically running hurt, credit for him to go and push through in a tough Grand Prix.
Yep. And speaking of Giovinazzi, he picked up the last points position. Alex, this is his first points position finish since the first race of the season in Austria. Is he coming back? Is he trying to say something to Alfa Romeo now that Mick is here testing in his or was supposedly supposed to be running in his car? Is he trying to send a message to Alfa Romeo here?
Well, he probably is. I mean, that's certainly what he needs to be doing. I mean, it was a decent performance by him. He outperformed Kimi all weekend, really. But I just think it's probably a little bit too little, too late. Same with everyone's favourite Nico Hulkenberg. But no, it was a good drive by Giovinazzi today, and unfortunately, it probably is more of a job advertisement. I'm here for next year if anybody wants to hire me. Sadly, it's looking like it's going to be a Kimi and Mick Schumacher at Alfa Romeo next season from Giovinazzi's point of view. It's a shame because I thought Giovinazzi really, when he first came into Formula One, I thought that he might have turned out a little bit better, but you could say that for a lot of drivers over the last few seasons. And unfortunately, Giovinazzi's just not made the grade. He's got a few more races to prove himself. If he carries on like he did today, then that's brilliant for him. And it's held back by the fact that the Alfa Romeo's not the fastest car in Formula One at the moment, certainly not the best engine power unit as well. But you're only as good as your last race, and today he performed really well.
Yeah, he did, but just missing out on the points behind him is the first of the Ferrari powered engines, and it's the Works Ferrari that finished behind an Alfa Romeo, a Haas, and the other Works Ferrari. So Sebastian Vettel finishing outside of the points again. I thought he did a not terrible job throughout the race. There were some really great moments of him battling with others, but again, he was subjected to the hard tyre, which was not the optimum race tyre. So, Jack, what did you make of Vettel's performance today?
It's just like the sort of performance we've unfortunately become used to of someone who's just a bit tired. Yeah, I think Ferrari were right to experiment. As we found out, it was just too cold to get that hard tyre to work. So he can still, all right, sometimes he's showing that he's still able to do the racing that we know he can do. But then that weird half spin locking up, it looked like he'd sort of dove to the inside there to sell him a dummy, gone to the outside, and then snatched the rear wheel on the white line. And the track does camber downhill at that point. So I can understand why the car would have been unsettled on the nose. And all of a sudden, with the regenerative braking as well, that makes them quite twitchy on turning. I can understand why it would have gone on him, but you've seen a lot of people also pull off the move. And I get the car's not working for him, but it can't just be his chassis that's doing this to him. So
yeah, there's only so much that you can blame on the car.
Exactly. I think it's more to do with everything that started out before the racing even got underway. We've talked about this to death, so I'm not going to grill him 2 more on that. I think he's probably suffered enough.
Definitely.
All he can do is see it through and get the points where he can, and he just needs to start focusing on trying to get up that grid. If he can't rely on the car to qualify, so be it. Rely on doing what Hulkenberg did and just get your nose clean and keep it consistent, which is what Vettel should be good at. So hopefully he can just sort of clear his mind and get focused.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see an upturn in the performance now that Charles has demonstrated that the Ferrari upgrades are working pretty nicely. So maybe in the last few races we will see Vettel take the fight to the other Ferrari-powered cars. But another Ferrari-powered car behind him and his former teammate, Kimi Raikkonen. What were we thinking of his race, Philip? Because I can't even remember what Raikkonen was doing. I think he had a penalty at one point. Who was it that
He hit George Russell.
George Russell,
He
that's
sent
it.
George Russell.
He yeeted George Russell, yeah.
Yeah, so was that a 10-second penalty that he
Yeah,
ended
10.
up getting?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't the cleanest race for the Iceman by any stretch. He wasn't as pacey as he has been in other races on that back end to compete for the point. He did have wing damage. They weren't able to change the wing. He does break the all-time record in race starts. So he's been around a really bleeping long time. It's something to say. I mean, it used to be Riccardo Patrese, and he wasn't ever really considered all that great. At least Kimi Räikkönen's won a lot of Grand Prix and won a world championship, albeit at the expense of McLaren giving it to him. But the fact is, in this time of his career, who knows if he is going to be racing next year, what he's going to be doing. His son's now running go-karts. He's kind of on the back end of it, probably going to go back to crashing rally cars here soon enough. But for breaking the record, it's a big deal, and it's cool. And it wasn't his best day, but Alpha did get points as well, and it's crucial for them to be going in and getting points. So they were up there in part because of what happened with some of the other cars. So big day for Kimi in terms of numbers, but not in terms of his actual performance.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we can all agree a big congratulations is in order because he has been in this sport for for a very, very long time. So yeah, congrats to Kimi. But yeah, not the best performance that we've ever seen from him. Last Ferrari powered car in 13th, Kevin Magnussen. Everyone kind of seems to think that Kevin is the stronger Haas driver, but he was outperformed by his teammate today, Alex.
It wasn't the best day at the office for Kevin Magnussen today, and to see his teammate score points, given the position they're in the championship, that must be, horrendous to see for him. It was pretty scruffy performance today. There was a pretty garish mistake at the final chicane, and I think his tyre strategy wasn't the best strategy either, which caused him to kind of get slightly mugged by a lot of the midfield. It was sadly another one to forget for him, and in a miserable season, let's be honest.
Yeah, I think it will be one to forget for our next driver as well, Nicholas Latifi. Not the greatest race, and definitely one that he could have been capitalizing on because there was a lot of chaos going on, but he was unable to do that, Jack. So, do you think that it's in these kind of races that Nicholas should be able to get a bit further up the field and be even taking it to Raikkonen, Magnussen, the guys in front of him?
I'm not so sure. Like, I can see why people would think that, but the Williams' race pace is just dire. George is pulling something out to get it to qualify, but that's about it. Even him, we see dropping back. So I'm not too sure there's much more we could have done. As soon as that safety car came in and bunched everybody up, because he was in 12th, not forgetting, and then everybody got closed up. They were on him, and then he just can't defend when they're on his tail, because especially with the DRS, he stood no chance. Maybe if the packet had been closed up, he might have had a better shot. Certainly, if people were hoping for points, I think that would have been a bit of a pipe dream, especially with Russell getting annihilated. So yeah, with the hand he was dealt, I think he just done as much as he could. He would have just had to hope for someone else to get problems, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think we can all still agree that the Williams is the weakest car on the grid, as evidenced by the fact that the other two weakest cars actually picked up points this week. So Yes, still a lot of work for Williams as a whole to do in order to give Latifi and George a shot at points at any point when they would be able to capitalise. But our final finisher was Danny Kvyat, and he also was screwed over a little bit by the hard tyre choice that he and his teammate Pierre Gasly was on. Gasly was obviously able to make that work, but Danny Kvyat ended up running at the back of the pack. So, Philip, what did you think about the AlphaTauri strategy this week? Did you think that they should have gone safe and stuck with the medium tire?
I mean, I think that could have been part of its F. I also think that when Alex Albon decided to clear himself across the front nose of Danny Kvyat, that also probably didn't help his cause. Once you have that damage, who knows what other we know the front wing was gone, but maybe there was floor, there may have been other things that went on with the car where he wasn't able to have as good of a handle. And then the hard tire was not going to work in those extremely cold conditions. Put all those things together, he was screwed. Unfortunate day for him, considering Gasly gets a sixth place. You would figure he'd be able to pass some of those kind of lower tier cars, but he couldn't do that. There has to be more to the story in terms of Kvyat. Unfortunately, he was running up, around the top 10 before the incident with Alex Albon. So it's kind of been the season that he's had. You consider the points differential between teammates and performance between teammates, it's been one-sided. I don't think it was as much to do with him today, but in general, it's been trending to where, the Russian rocket may or may not be employed in for next year, depending on how things go in F2. So or if other things may come along. So we will see.
Yeah, Danny Kvyat, our final race finisher in 15th. So him being our final race finisher, we had 5 retirements, which is more than usual, I would say. Not as many as we've had at other races in the season, e.g. Mugello, but definitely quite a lot. And they were very mechanical heavy. So the first retirement that we had was George Russell, I believe, who was punted off by Kimi. And we kind of touched on that a little bit. But Alex, do you think that George would have been able to, I know we talked a little bit about it with Latifi, but do you think George would have been able to take the fight and maybe not get points, but be a bit further up the order?
Yeah, I think had everything else gone the way it had done, and maybe Raikkonen had been a few hundred yards further ahead and punted Vettel off instead of him, then maybe Russell, I still don't think he would have been able to score points. I think Russell would have been around about 12, 13. Probably still ahead of Latifi, but yeah, I still think for Williams to get points, it needs one of those really wild races where there's only 10 cars finishing, and they have to be 2 of them have to be Williams cars as well, and it's a lot to hope for them, and it was a shame because we've said many times that how capable George is, and especially in qualifying. But yeah, the race pace that Williams has is not the best. But it was no fault of his own why he wasn't able to bring it home today.
Yeah, so lap 16, George retired, which was very disappointing. And then on lap 19, we had a shock retirement, a reliability issue with the Mercedes of Bottas, which I definitely wasn't expecting. Jack, do you think that if Bottas hadn't retired, he would have actually given us a fight for the lead of the race? Do you think we would have seen any sort of fight whatsoever?
Probably not, unfortunately. Like he started, like, don't get me wrong, the start was great, and I thought, yes, Bottas, come on, get your gloves off. And then he decided he didn't want to win the race at the was it the last corner or something, when he just had an enormous lockup going in. He was probably, the retirement itself came as a bit of a shock. He said he felt the ERS going on in the VSC, the first VSC we had. So after that, I guess they would have done the same sort of thing as Lando, reset this, that, or the other. They just never. It never came back to it. They've got to save these power plants, so you can understand pulling him early. But yeah, no, I stick by what I said before. I think Verstappen would have had him for second place had he carried on, because with the way that people were locking up, Lewis was already gone by that point, I think. So that would have just made Verstappen that bit more hungry, and I think he would have been able to catch him eventually. It might have been close, but I reckon he should have he would have had bias by then.
Yeah, well, now that Bottas has DNF'd, his first DNF of the season as well, now that he has DNF'd, the championship is now running away with Lewis Hamilton. Well, Lewis is running away with the championship. But our third retirement, Esteban Ocon. So his teammate on the podium, Esteban retiring. So it's not really where you want to be, is it? Is it, Philip?
No, it's been a bad recent trend for Ocon as well, with some of the fighting he's had with his, engineers and things that are going on with the team. You also consider Fred Alonso coming in and knowing what kind of, super personality and the driving talent that he brings back to the team coming next year, and it's not trending in his favor. Of course, having a mechanical, whatever, power unit, electrical, whatever it may have been, hydraulics, all the different things, whatever it may have been, problem is not good. It could have affected, and we saw that with somebody else we're going to mention here soon, having issues. But the other two Renault powered cars made it to the finish, one on the podium, the other one up in the top 6. So, I mean, it's unfortunate for Ocon, but it's kind of been that kind of year for him all year. So just, I guess, the circumstances weren't in his favor. He didn't really have the same kind of pace as Ricardo either, which has been the case all year too. So, I mean, he would have probably gotten points if he finished, but unfortunately he wasn't able to.
Yeah, I think this is a big story of Ocon and Ricardo at the minute. So I do believe that Ocon has had much worse reliability than Ricardo has this year. But at the same time, when he is not DNFing, he is not on Ricardo's level whatsoever. So I definitely think the better Renault finished today. And if it had been the other way around, Ricardo DNF'd, I'm honestly not sure that Ocon would have been on the podium. So yeah.
We
move on.
He underestimated. Sorry, just before you continue, he severely
it's all right.
underestimated how much he would have missing that year, especially to not do anything. So I think this is probably proven to be quite a shot. As Philip said, Alonso should give him a run for his money. But I would like to interject with driving talent question mark.
Question mark.
No, like, come on, coming back to F1, like, it was nowhere in Indy. Yeah, he's had the run of it with Toyotas, but this will prove, I think, like everyone with say, he's one of the best in the world. Yeah, sure. Well, let's see how he does now. Anyway, carry on.
We're going to have that a lot going on next year between Alonso returning after a couple of years away. We're going to have that with Vettel, who doesn't look like he's doing anything of value. And then he's going to go to another team, which is definitely centric to the other driver. I mean, we're going to see about, what some of these drivers that have been great in the past, what they really have now in a mid-tier team, when they know full well they're not going to win either. They're just contending for podiums. So,
to be honest, I predict Aston Martin taking Vettel to Le Mans in a couple of years. So we'll see how that pans out.
Ooh, a spicy take. Yeah. Well, you heard it here first, everyone. You heard it here first. Back on track. If we stick with this race, if we stick with Formula One, we had another retirement, a Red Bull car. It was Alex Albon. Now, Alex's race was looking pretty scruffy. So it's kind of a good thing that he retired, because he was making quite a lot of mistakes and it was all looking a little bit clumsy to me. Wouldn't you agree, Alex?
Absolutely, of course. I mean, I feel sorry for Alex Albon because I don't think he's learning. For a driver of that car, obviously Verstappen's this mercurial talent. We all know that. But how is it justifiable that the second driver is that far behind him in qualifying, and it clearly gets to him, because I think that's why he's doing these do or die manoeuvres in the race. I mean, he tried a pretty silly half go in the early part and nearly took his front wing off, and then the manoeuvre it wasn't really a manoeuvre, but it was when Kvyat went off, and then he came on his line and then took the front wing off Kvyat's car. I mean that's entertaining for us, but it's not. That's not right. That's terrible. I mean, I honestly think if this had been a normal season, if COVID didn't exist and we'd had the Formula One going on from March as we normally did, I think it would have been dropped already. I think Helmut Marko would have stepped in.
I wonder who they would have put instead. That's the only question I have. I don't think they would have dropped him just because they've got no one else really to put in that seat.
Well, everyone else that they've got immediately in F1 is a pre-Red Bull driver anyway.
Exactly. So all of the AlphaTauri boys as well, Red Bull have already dropped. So
They've already dropped them.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to bring...
I think they took a chance on Albon too early. I think that's
Yeah.
good.
I agree.
I
Yeah,
don't,
well,
I don't think that car is, it's been proven they only put all their effort into 33 car. We know that. I get why they do that. It's not it's not great in terms of constructors, but okay, fine. Max is the guy, but you ran Gasly out the door after 9 races or 10 races. I don't know how many races he had. I understand running Kvyat. You knew what you had. You had a couple of years there. You ran Gasly out the door and you put Albon, who, to be honest, I don't really remember him doing anything of great significance in the Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri, whatever, that would make you believe that, oh, he should have just gotten a promotion. Now, this is exactly what Red Bull has always done for years. They've ran these drivers through this like meat grinder, and now you have nobody. Now you're like, oh, we have to look for somebody outside. It'll be the first time possibly they're looking for somebody outside since Mark Webber. I mean, literally, that's where we're at now because they don't know how to manage their drivers. They don't know how to make 2 good cars. And you're killing Alex Albon's confidence in the process. He's even worse off than I think Gasly was when he got punted out of there. So if you demote him or he gets demoted and they put Gasly up or they put some veteran in and then, I mean, because now Honda's leaving, they may not have the same push to put Sonoda in the car. It just makes no sense. I'll never understand Red Bull's methodologies, but whatever. They
I
won
think
years ago, and now they're just whatever.
the Red Bull one is an interesting one, and we shall definitely continue this conversation about the Red Bull family later. But for our final retirement, we had Lando Norris, who was complaining of a mechanical issue on the car, and his mechanics, they did everything they could to fix said mechanical issue. I think it was an issue with a sensor, and at the end of the day, he ended up going off on lap 44 of 60. So he was doing a great job managing this mechanical issue for a large portion of the race, wasn't he, Jack?
Yeah, you could tell how frustrating it was. You heard that anger and fire in his voice when they were trying to sort it. And there was a reset almost every lap, but he knew that was a podium because this was after Bottas had dropped. So they knew that this was a podium that was walking away from them. But to be fair to Lando, that this was a fantastic bit of management from a very young driver, but it was clear that problem was getting severe. Was it Perez who was closed up on him into the chicane? And you saw the lights come on. Now, I know that it was cold, which makes it the air denser and the car's more draggy, but that was a terrifying closing speed when that engine derated so suddenly. So it was clear that I think that this sensor issue was linking to their MGU. And when they pulled over the fire, you could see there's like a shorting burn mark in the carbon. So 160 horsepower, and if it's coming in inconsistently, it's not something that they can work with. And then when the car went into anti-stall, that was it, job done. So he'll be frustrated, but a similar story to Carlos. This is McLaren, and this is a good McLaren now. So they'll get it sorted, get him moved on, and they know to just put their efforts into the next 2.
Yeah, Lando will be disappointed with what happened because he was running so well. But yeah, onwards and upwards for the McLaren, and hopefully he'll have a better weekend in a couple of weeks at Portugal. But that's all of everyone who finished and didn't finish, and there were lots of highs at this weekend, and there were also lots of lows. But I'm going to ask you guys who your driver of the day was, because I think there were some stunning performances on track today, and we could definitely there's quite a few contenders, I would say. So we'll start with you, Alex.
Ricciardo.
That's it. Okay, Jack.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Ricciardo. I would have gone Hulkenberg, and I can understand why he got driver of the day, but I think I'd like to see this more repeatable. So we'll have to see if he can prolong this if he gets another chance. So yeah, Ricciardo finally taking that opportunity, and if Renault can finally get that car under him to properly challenge Verstappen, so they can get a 3rd place on merit, even better. But this is something they desperately needed. So yeah, Danny Rick for me.
Yeah. Okay, Alex, I moved on from you quite quickly, but is there anything else that you wanted to add in terms of why Ricciardo is so deserving of driver of the day?
Because he's been knocking on the door for a couple of times now of that podium. It nearly happened in Mugello. It wasn't to be, but he showed his character. And I mean, the Renault has got steadily better as the season progressed. I know the reliability is not perfect, as we've seen with Ocon, but in terms of the deficit that they had, especially last year, that doesn't appear to be as big. And the hard work's paid off, and you saw from the reaction from the whole team and Ricciardo, it was just a massive weight off their shoulders to get that third place. And hopefully for them, it's not going to be the last one that they're going to get, because there's still 5 races left or something like that, and plenty of time to get an even better result. Especially, I echo what Jack just said. If they can get that even greater towards the front, then it could be they could end the relationship on a high, Ricciardo and Renault.
Yep, definitely. Philip, your driver of the day?
Oh, I mean, the easy choice is what Alex and Jack said with Danny Rick. I'll go and deviate a little bit. I'm not going to go with Hulkenberg, the tracing point. I'll go with the other guy that got fired for no reason at tracing point, and Sergio Perez, for a guy who's racing for his career, who doesn't really know where he's going to be. I mean, when you look at the options right now, there may be another option opening up at a big team, but for him, the way he performed starting in 9th position, they didn't really have as much pace yesterday, and it didn't look so great when we were on the qualifying show. I was like, oh, we talk about maybe top 6 or something like that. Pull out a 4th place finish, you get a double point steal for Stroll F1. I mean, but for Sergio to do that, it shows the kind of talent and skill that, Ron Dennis bottled a few years ago, and he has proven in lesser equipment. It'd be nice to see what he could do. He is a veteran driver. What could he do in a bigger car? Maybe he finally gets that legitimate shot. I'll give that to Checo for that performance. I don't think that car was as good as 4th place today, but he got it done, and that's all that really matters.
Yeah, definitely. And I think all your choices were brilliant, and I would definitely agree. The easy option is Daniel Ricciardo because he did such a great job. I'm going to go with our winner. I'm going to go with Lewis Hamilton because he would have known what was at stake this weekend. He would have known he's going to have a record equaling weekend and already starting off the back foot. So he wasn't on pole, and we know Hamilton's a great qualifier. So not to get pole would have been, well, I don't know if it would have shaken his confidence at all, but he's definitely not as easy. And he had a great start going to overtake Bottas into turn 1 and then coming back at him. I think he did a really, really great job to keep calm, as always. I don't know why I'm surprised that Hamilton was calm and collected as per usual, but he did a great job to take it to the finish line. And I'm really, really glad that he has equaled this record. I'm really glad that we got to see him and Mick, and we got to see this beautiful podium. So yes, it's a massive, massive achievement for Lewis, and there's the only way is up now. So all we can do now is go and smash those records. But yeah, we have reached the end of the show today. We're always broadcasting the show live on Facebook. So like the Chronicle on Facebook in order to see the show as it airs. We are now available as a podcast on Amazon Music, as well as YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, Omni Studio, and Pocket Casts. Just search for F1 Grid Talk. We have a huge back catalogue of shows now. I believe this is episode 66. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think so, yeah.
66. Yeah, 66. So there's all kinds of podcasts for you to get stuck into, not just race reviews and quali reviews. We have an interview with Mario Isola from Pirelli. We have ones looking at scandals like Tiregate, and even one dedicated to the late great Ayrton Senna, who we all love. We have a subreddit, so go check that out. Search for F1 Grid Talk, and we have a Patreon, so you guys can support us and help us get mics, lights for all of our hosts, and better equipment just to improve the quality for you guys. We will be back next Sunday to preview a brand new track, Portimao, in Portugal, which I'm really looking forward to going to. Thank you all so much for listening and watching, and bye for now.
Bye.